Teddy Roosevelt 2019 is not monetized. If you like this content, please like, subscribe, and share so more viewers will see this information. Thank you.
William Craddock tweeted this out, and this is kind of amazing, this video I'm about to show you. And he says, at a Council on Foreign Relations forum about fake news, former editor at Time magazine, his name is Richard Stengel, he directly states that he supports the use of propaganda on American citizens, then shuts the session down when challenged about how propaganda is used against the third world.
We are at war with Russia, or perhaps more correctly, we have lost a war with Russia without a battle. We are no longer a sovereign nation. We are no longer a democracy. We are no longer a free people. We are the victims of a bloodless coup. So far, a bloodless coup, engineered by Russia with, at best, the traitorous indifference of the Republican Party and Donald John Trump, a man who, to borrow a phrase from another December long ago, will live in infamy.
We are watching live pictures right now. We understand, too, there are helicopters in the air. You can see those here. They are there to medevac any wounded individuals out of that park area where the congressman, as Nancy described, were doing their baseball practice. And you can see here what looks like like a member of Congress that I recognize, but we'll wait for confirmation.
We do have it, Nora. We've told that the congressman who was shot in the hip has been identified as Steve Scalise.
He is the Republican House Majority Whip.
By the way, as I said, Bernie Sanders has put out a statement here on today's attack, and that the attacker was apparently a Sanders disciple and a big advocate for him. And this is, again, coming from Senator Sanders. I've just been informed that the alleged shooter at the Republican baseball practice is someone who apparently volunteered on my presidential campaign.
In 5 weeks' time, unless desperate measures are taken, we will hand over the government to a man who lost the popular vote by more than Woodrow Wilson or Jimmy Carter won it, a man whom the Russians wanted to run our country for them, a man whom the Russians got to run our country for them.
Glenn Greenwald says is the Mueller investigation is complete, and this is a simple fact that will never go away. Not one single American was ever charged, indicted, or convicted for conspiring with Russia to influence the 2016 election. Not even a low-level volunteer. The number is 0.
Open your eyes.
Last week, well-known NBC and MSNBC journalist William Arkin quit his job, and he pulled no punches as to why. As The Intercept summed it up, he put out an open letter saying mainstream media has become captive and subservient to the national security state, reflexively pro-war in the name of stopping Donald Trump, and now the prime propaganda instrument of the war machine's promotion of militarism and imperialism.
This is from News Punch Online Magazine, April 2nd of 2019. MSNBC reporter quits, admits the network is CIA propaganda. As you scroll down, William Arkin, a longtime and well-known military reporter, has resigned from his job with MSNBC while admitting the network has become infiltrated by deep state operatives. According to this military reporter, MSNBC is now the propaganda arm of the CIA and FBI and routinely peddles disinformation to the masses. And he goes on to talk about how the collapse of the Trump-Russia collusion hoax is waking millions of Americans up to the idea that the mainstream media doesn't always tell the truth. In fact, he claims pushing propaganda and disinformation by a shadowy government agency group is why the mainstream media was created in the first place.
When I
was working at the FBI, the counterintelligence department, I mean, I was exposed to how a certain nation's people's intelligence would talk to a certain high-profile people, let's say Grossman in the State Department. And then the State Department the guy, Mark Grossman, would say, don't worry, we write a nice article, we'll fax it. Back then they used fax to the New York Times, and it would be printed under this very high-level, well-known journalist, okay, in order to make this and this thing easier for you. This was not once or twice occurring incidents or examples in so many of these things. The State Department, which is another channel for the CIA to operate domestically as well, they would actually fax articles, editorials, and would have New York Times, Washington Post printed under a specific journalist or a specific editorial writer's name.
Well, I've been a journalist for about 25 years, and I was educated to lie, to betray, and not to tell the truth to the public. But seeing right now, within the last months, how far how the German and American media tries to bring war to the people in Europe, to bring war to Russia. This is a point of no return, and I'm going to stand up and say it is not right what I have done in the past, to manipulate people, to make propaganda against Russia, and it is not right what my colleagues do and have done in the past, because they are bribed to betray the people, not only in Germany, all over Europe. This is journalists too. And I just have written in the book how we have betrayed in the past our readers just to push for war, and because I don't want this anymore. I'm fed up with this propaganda. We live in a banana republic.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Jimmy Dore Show. William Craddock tweeted this out, and this is kind of amazing, this video I'm about to show you. And he says, at a Council on Foreign Relations forum about fake news, former editor at Time magazine, his name is Richard Stengel, he directly states that he supports the use of propaganda on American citizens, then shuts the session down when challenged about how propaganda is used against the third world. You ready? Watch this. This is now, keep in mind who this guy is. Former editor of Time magazine. Listen to what he has to say.
So you'll be the last question, but I just want to weigh in on that for 1 second. So there's another word for master narratives. It's called history. Basically, every country creates their own narrative story. And you know, my old job at the State Department was what people used to joke as the chief propagandist job.
First of all, how awesome is it that the guy used to be at the State Department, then he was the editor at Time magazine? What the F? Let's just get Henry Kissinger to run New York Times. Are you kidding me? So, and did you hear what they used to call him?
You know, my old job at the State Department was what people used to joke as the chief propagandist job. We haven't talked about propaganda.
Well, let's review what kind of propaganda Time magazine had on its cover while this guy was the editor. Time, the me generation. Well, that's a nice master narrative. Millennials is all about themselves and are lazy and entitled narcissists who still live with their parents. They had this article, it's all about me. I thought it was about millennials when I first screenshot it. But no, it's about forget democracies. China's 20-somethings are too busy living the good life to care about politics. You see, millennials are lazy all over the world.
That's a hilarious joke.
That is so really good. People used to joke that my job was a chief propagandist because that's what I would do. We joke about things that are real.
This is my favorite poster. In a time of universal deceit, telling the truth is a revolutionary act. George Orwell from his book 1984.
Sometimes they call me minister. It was hysterical.
I'm the best liar.
Propaganda, I'm not against propaganda. Every country does it, and they have to do it to their own population. And
take a look at, we're going to talk about a few new techniques that have not been talked about in previous lectures. This is propaganda on the left, and then we'll do propaganda on the right. So if you look at these two pictures, you say, where's the propaganda? I don't see any propaganda here. That's a picture of Hillary Clinton giving a talk, a speech. There's Donald Trump giving a speech. There's no deceit. There's no deception. Nobody's trying to pull the wool over our eyes. I just see those things as pieces of reality. Well, that's part of what we are doing here in uncovering the underlying truth that is not being shown. For example, that's the Hillary Clinton rally that she's speaking at, and that's the Donald Trump rally that he's speaking at. So by cropping those pictures, you get a completely different impression than what reality actually is. Now, there are two techniques I want to introduce here. One is called reframing. Reframing in verbally is when you take a word and you twist it around and get an opposite meaning. For example, a crisis becomes an opportunity. Oh, isn't that nice? A problem becomes a challenge. So by changing the words, the context, and also the picture, the graphic, you can alter the meaning of what you're looking at. There's a more important propaganda technique here called the bandwagon effect. Numbers are important for the bandwagon effect to take hold. If we say 3 people on the bandwagon and know that hundreds have not joined, then the reverse effect will take place and we will be loath to join. If you walk by a restaurant and there are 2 people sitting in the restaurant, you think, I don't think I'm going to go to that restaurant, right? And if it's full of people, on the other hand, you think, well, there must be something really good here. That's called the bandwagon effect. Now, hidden from view, we're going to August 25th, 2016. By that time, Trump had 10 times more participants in his rallies than Clinton, 168,000 versus 10,000 for Clinton. But the media, the mainstream media, which is the liberal media, or I suppose, NBC, CBS, ABC, PBS, and CNN, did not report and show these discrepancies. They had close-in shots virtually all the time. These are Clinton rallies that you didn't see on television. Now, let's take a look at Trump rallies, which you also didn't see mainly on television. So by using close-in shots, you control for the negative bandwagon effect. I don't want to go to that restaurant, nobody's there. And the positive bandwagon effect. My God, look at how much popularity there is. You control that, eliminate it, and kind of censor it, really. This is Hillary Clinton.
And I just have to tell you, I go to, as you might guess, a lot of states. And it's one of the best parts of running for office, particularly for president, because you get to travel around, you get to meet people.
Notice she turns around to talk to the audience. One of the reasons is there were only 171 people in attendance at this rally, and most of them were set to be behind her to give the impression that there's this huge crowd. So Trump complained about this news coverage, didn't get very far, but one day he finally got his moment.
But I want the cameras to span the room. Go ahead, fellas, watch. They don't turn them. They don't turn them. They don't turn them. Go ahead, turn them. Look, turn the camera. Go ahead. Turn the camera, ma'am. Turn the camera. You with the blonde hair, turn the camera. Show the room. Go ahead. They don't turn them. What about, hey, you in the center, why don't you turn your camera? Show them how many people come to these rallies. Turn them. Go ahead, turn them. Go ahead. Okay.
Well, there was an obvious reluctance to do that. Now, if you look at this data, by September 2016, Trump had 337,000 people who had come to his rallies. Clinton had 13,970. By October, Trump was averaging 6,000 people per event. Hillary's average was 380. So if you took these two studies, if you get an average discrepancy, it's 20 to 1. It's not small change at all. So by doing that, even though 20 times more people attended Trump rallies than Clinton, the polls show them neck and neck virtually throughout the entire campaign. Okay. Now, psychology is not an exact science. We can't quantify how much of this bandwagon effect played a role. I mean, the negative subtracting out Hillary's low attendance and subtracting out Trump's large attendance could have affected those numbers on how many people wanted to vote for Trump and Clinton. We don't know whether it was 2 points, 4 points, 8 points, but clearly there was deception here. This is propaganda. When you're not portraying reality accurately, and these close-in shots did not portray reality accurately. So some people say, "Oh no, I don't believe any of this stuff. Kroth's making it up." Here are your sources, just so you know I'm not coming up with this on my own. All right, for this segment. Now let's go to the right